Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
Here we are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, we welcome you to a new week and lots of fun to be had and lots of games to be played. We'll get to the fight and more in just a moment. But first things first, Mike, there's only one place to begin today. A great American city, the place you began your professional football career, is underwater. Our thoughts are with all of our friends in Houston. I've had wonderful times in that city over the years with you at the many events that we went to. But unlike you, I never lived there. Yeah. You did for several years.
Yeah, several years. I mean, that 610 loop, what would you see pictures of? I drove that every day, going to practice. And it was a place I got drafted in 1985, was there for a little over 2 years. And the devastation there is unreal. And to know it's not over, to know they have more rain coming. And it's always horrible to see the tragedy that's out there. But what is amazing, we always talk about how great our first responders are, and they are fantastic. They're the people running towards the trouble instead of away from it. But to see so many neighbors, so many normal, regular people, not police, not firemen, who obviously they were doing an incredible job, but neighbors checking on neighbors, and friends and people who don't know each other trying to help one another. Seeing that, just seeing the resolve of people, whether it's by boat or wading through the water. I mean, I can't even fathom the devastation. And then you hear, don't be going in the water because there's alligators. I mean, it just keeps going. That's like almost a movie that of how bad it is, and yet people are living it. So many people are living it down there. There's nothing I can say other than our thoughts and prayers are with you, and obviously help to donate all we can. J.J. Watt started to raise money for that. His goal is to, $500,000. He's already raised a couple $100,000. I'm sure it's more than that already. I'm sure others are going to do it as well. So we all just can help how we can help. I'm sure there's going to be so many people descending upon Houston trying to help when they don't have, where they don't have enough. But you just watch the clip of that, and then to know that it's not over, to know that they're getting more rain is just, it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. So obviously our thoughts and prayers with everybody there. And as they said, everybody's checking on their neighbors and so many people helping. I mean, that is so great to see, but such a tragic event and such an aftermath of what people are going to have to deal with. We know we've already lost a couple of lives down there, and that's, you just pray it doesn't happen. But unfortunately, it did here, and you hope no more are lost. But it's you look at it and you can't believe it. You just can't believe that it happens that quickly and the water is that high and people have to, cars are the water's higher than the cars and the street signs. It doesn't look like it's possible, and yet people are wading through it and trying to get out of it as quickly as they can.
I'm looking at J.J. Watt's, Houston Flood Relief Fund for victims of Hurricane Harvey, and he's got almost $280,000 raised of his $500,000 goal, and there'll be more. And there are a lot of sports ramifications, if you will, of this storm, of teams not playing and not traveling and not getting here or there. And, of course, that's the least of it.
Yeah, it is. Right.
Nothing could be less significant in the big picture than the fact that the Astros may not be able to play a home game this week or whatever it is. They have far greater concerns. So, again, for all of you who are there, I mean, be safe and all of that. I know, obviously, you have far more important things to do than watching or listening to our show today. We'll try and keep those who have gotten out of there entertained as best we can this morning. But, of course, all of you in Houston, we've had so many good times. We were just there for the Super Bowl. And
we were there
for the Final Four recently. And, again, you lived there for a couple of years.
Started my NFL career. I loved that town. I really, really do. And it's just horrible to see. So any way you can help, if you can, if you have the ability to, then this is certainly the time to do it.
In the meantime, we will get to the sports news of the day, and there's a lot of it. Let's go off the top, and it starts with Giancarlo Stanton. Mike, we're still in the month of August, and he has hit 50 home runs. He hit his 50th yesterday. He's now on pace for 62.
Yeah, really incredible. 50th home run. It's the earliest date of the 50th home run. He is now, 2, 4, 6, 8th in that. Barry Bonds in 2001 did it by August 11th. Stanton, obviously, by the 27th. And there's the McGuires and Sosas a couple of times. Maris in there, Sosa a few times. Unfortunately, again, for Stanton in all of this, that's the names he's going to be associated with in these lists. Take out Maris, obviously, nothing with him, but McGuire, Sosa, and Bonds. As he goes up this list, most home runs in a single month is 20 by 1998 by Sammy Sosa. So Stanton still has 4 games to go, and he has 17. So we'll see if he tries to get near that as all. So we'll see where he ends up. As you mentioned, 62. And he's the one who had mentioned 61. Others had mentioned 61. Roger Maris is 61. We know that's not the record, but it certainly seems to be that kind of number hanging there. I don't think anybody believes he's going to get close to that 73 number, but 61 certainly is in reach. And it's a guy that seems to be so well respected around the league, and at least from my eyes, I know the size of him, so it's the first thing a lot of people think. I don't believe there's been PED talk following him throughout his career.
No, nothing that doesn't just there is the general, well, who knows who's on what anymore.
Right.
But outside of that, there's nothing specific. I did see a few interesting arguments related to this and indirectly to him on Twitter this week. Hembo sent me something I'll bring in
off the top,
a little bit later. Meanwhile, congratulations to the kid from Japan. They won the Little League World Series, Mike, for the fifth title, I should say, for that country in the last 8 years.
Yeah, they beat Texas. Texas actually had a 2-0 lead. I think it was on 2 home runs up until about the 4th inning. And then Japan hit 3 home runs, I think, in that inning and just went on to go. Chinese Taipei has won by country 17 titles, Japan 11 titles. This particular team, Kitasuma, Tokyo Kitasuna, this is their 4th title as a team, so the most by a state in the United States winning is 7 titles by California. They made a championship game 23 times and 7 titles, but congrats to the team from Japan.
Off the top.
Dustin Johnson won his 4th PGA event this year, his first since March. He's now out in front in the FedEx standings. He and Jordan Spieth had a fascinating day yesterday in Long Island.
Well, I mean, that's what you look for, right? You're looking for two guys like this to be paired up on a Sunday, and then it went to an extra hole. It not goes to an extra hole. So now, not shockingly, as we go for somebody trying to win the $10 million, the FedEx Cup, these two are 1-2. Matsuyama, he was first going into this, but he missed the cut, so he dropped to 4th. In this, so we'll see where it goes. But this is what you look for. Dustin Johnson, I mean, remember early on he won in February, won twice in March, and then basically disappeared, wasn't playing well.
Because he fell down the stairs at Augusta, and that was the end of that.
Help. Yeah, one fall, and that's it, and all the way till August before he gets his next win. But what a nice win for him.
Yeah, I find myself a little more interested in the FedEx Cup this year than I have been in recent years. We'll see if that continues, because we're about to go into the avalanche of college football this weekend and the NFL the weekend after that. But I did find myself watching a lot of this over the course of this weekend, both Saturday and yesterday. And Spieth had a 5-shot lead at one point yesterday, gave it all back and winds up losing in the playoffs. U.S. Open begins today. They're on the courts in Flushing Meadows, and Roger Federer, among others, will be playing.
And he's the favorite. One of the reasons, year-end ATP rankings of 2016, the top 5 players.
And no one else is playing.
None of them are in the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
All are out because of injury. So Roger Federer is looking to break a tie with Jimmy Connors and Pete Sampras for 5 U.S. Open titles. He's looking for his 6. He's the 5-4 favorite right now.
And he and Nadal are on the same side of the draw.
Yeah,
I was with Chris McKendry this weekend, and she does the tennis for us here. And no one knows it better than she does. No one loves it better than she does. And I was yelling at her. I was like, why can't they just fix that? Why can't they just go 3 and 4 could go on either side? Why can't they just fix it so that Federer and Nadal will be on opposite sides of the draw? You're not changing anything.
No, you're not, especially with the top 5 players out. So it would have been
Murray's
nice to have
there.
them.
Djokovic is not there. You want Federer and Nadal to at least have a chance to play in the final.
I agree. And then on the women's side, Serena Williams obviously not playing, and so it's pretty wide open there. One of the differences here, different than the French Open in this major, is Maria Sharapova will be in the U.S. Open.
Off the top.
All right, Vontaze Burfict is facing a 5-game suspension for an illegal hit. We'll get into this a little bit. You need to see the play.
Yeah.
For those of you listening on ESPN Radio, when we have this conversation, we'll try and figure out a way to send you to seeing the play. Obviously, we'll show it for you on TV over and over. I'm really curious to hear, Mike, your take on this, because there's a difference between dirty. There are three different things a play can be. It can be dirty, it can be unnecessary, and it can be illegal.
Right.
An unnecessary dirty play doesn't necessarily have to make it illegal.
No.
So, to me, it looks unnecessary and it looks dirty. The question of whether it's illegal or not, I'll leave up to you.
Well, I mean, we do need to get into this a little bit because the ball was in the air, but the pass wasn't to the back coming out of the backfield. Does Burfict see the pass in the air? There's a 5-yard chuck rule the last I checked in the NFL. And he hits him 1 yard down the field. He hits him square up. He is square to the line of scrimmage. Now, the back running out is turned a bit looking in case he gets the ball. Burfict hits him square up with his shoulder, runs straight at him. Now, the ball was in the air. I guess technically you could say, even though the ball wasn't to that receiver, it gets a little muddied for me. I know we've had the defenseless player rule, but they've even kind of tweaked it a little bit more this year, and that's why they're saying he may get fined for this. The Bengals are completely on Burfict's side. And listen, this is a guy that a lot of times you don't jump on his side. I think he has 16 roughing the passer or personal fouls. He's been fined almost $1 million, so he rarely gets the benefit of the doubt. The team is behind him saying this was a straight-on shot. We'll get into it a little more because I'm even trying to digest where this is illegal, dirty, finable, suspendable, and where it's going to end up.
Off the top.
As it stands now, we believe he could be suspended 5 games. Finally, Deshaun Kaiser, no surprise here, will be the Browns starting quarterback for their season opener. In a little while, we'll play you Chris Collinsworth explanation from when he was on our show last week of why this is the right decision, in my opinion, regardless of anything else. You got to find out about him. And to paraphrase what Collinsworth said, next year is a year with 1 million quarterbacks that everyone is dying to take. So the Browns have to find out this year whether or not they have a quarterback.
I agree. And there are those that said you could have found out, let him sit for a few games, halfway through the season and then get an eye for it. But you know what? My thought is always if the guy you think he's not a deer in headlights, he's ready, he's making the right reads, he's putting you in the right situations, and we'll get into this more and more, especially in that Hugh Jackson offense as well. But you look at the rookie quarterbacks, he's starting, Deshaun Watson, numbers-wise, was the worst of the 4. But a lot of times you don't look at numbers. You look at how they're throwing the ball, and they throw it to the right guy. Glennon's going to be the starter in Chicago. They just had that third preseason game. He looked sharp in that game. Trubisky looked good at times and like a rookie at times. So Glennon's going to be the starter.
One gorgeous touchdown, though. Trubisky.
Oh, he did.
I didn't see the game, but I saw
I saw the game.
He dropped it in the bucket.
I saw the game. I saw a lot of games. The 30-minute compressed game watching is awesome to be able to see all the games. Glennon, not even close, in my opinion, outplayed Trubisky in that game. Glennon will be the starter, I believe, for the Chicago Bears. We may wonder how long that may happen, but I think it's all settled as far as rookie quarterbacks. We'll have the one starting in Kaiser.
And that, my friends, is Off the Top, which is brought to you by Zipa. Go to Zipa.com. That's ZYPPAH.com. Get a Zipa so you can stop snoring and enjoy the summer. All right, in a word, the fight. We waited... Yeah. I can't say we waited years for it. We didn't even wait months for it.
We didn't wait that long.
In that regard, and maybe all others, unlike so many other fights that we have looked forward to and watched, I would use the word satisfying. I was satisfied with what I got.
I was satisfied. I was entertained. I got, for those that wanted to spend the $100 or not spend the $100, I did. It was after, Chris finished her walk. We were out in South Bend doing that, and you almost had to nap before this thing because the fight was right around midnight. So that's kind of what we did, and we got up and we watched this fight, and I was entertained by it. And I remember my official pick was early, like I think the first 4 rounds, but in watching that fight, I completely understand why it went like it did to Mayweather's game plan. A figure, you look at him, there was a size difference. McGregor is just flat out bigger, and after they weigh in, the amount of weight they can gain.
What do you think he weighed when he stepped into that ring?
They were saying he was in the 170s.
Yeah.
The possibility of him being, I don't know that for a fact, but these guys gain a lot of weight after their weigh-in. And when he hit that early uppercut on Mayweather, you thought, oh, my Lord. He put a pretty good shot on him. But as the fight went on, listen, I am not a boxing aficionado. I watch as a casual fan like all others. And you saw Mayweather figuring him out, hanging back, arms up, against the ropes as McGregor was trying to, throw the hard punches, kept bopping him on the back of the head. We can get into that as well. That was somewhat interesting. Sometimes you can't take the MMA out of the guy, and I don't blame him. But then all of a sudden, what about that 4th, 5th, 6th round? You saw Mayweather start to go forward, start the beginning of the bell of the round, go forward, and started to figure him out. At one point, you heard his dad in the corner said, "Listen, I think it was a 6 or 7 round." He said, "You can take him whenever you want now," and he was right. He was right. You could see McGregor's average fight time in his last 10 fights was 8 minutes. And Mayweather was 33. That was one of the first stats we threw out there. When this fight was going to happen, Hembo gave us that stat as one of the first stats we threw out, and it turned out to be the most important one. McGregor just didn't have the stamina, and you could see it. You could just see the tide turning, and the scorecard by the time it ended was way in advantage of Mayweather. A lot of people thought maybe too much, but McGregor wasn't going to outpoint Mayweather. He was going to have to knock him out. And what you saw as the fight was going on is McGregor, he's not a boxer. The analysts were saying it, and I was and listening to them and watching, saying, okay, while he's bigger, he doesn't have the angles yet and the leverage for his punches to be really, really effective. Early on they were, but before he started to get tired, but then that kind of wore off. So after the fight, when I'm hearing, could he be a boxer now? This takes years. I mean, we can't disparage the boxers here and what you learn over years of boxing, of leverage and punches and fights. McGregor, I thought, did an excellent. I thought he represented himself incredibly well. He was bummed that the referee Bird stepped in at the end, but the ref did exactly what the ref is supposed to do in boxing. This isn't MMA where you tap out or submissions or get choked out or knocked out or thing. This is boxing where the referee's job is to protect a defenseless fighter, and that's exactly what he did. So he stepped in, and I know McGregor said, hey, let me get knocked out. Let me get knocked down. I agree with the ref stepping in. He was defenseless at this point. But I was entertained.
He hadn't thrown a punch in about the last minute and a half.
It was like the first 2 rounds when Mayweather was figuring him out. Mayweather threw like 12 punches in the first 2 rounds. McGregor actually threw more punches in this, but Mayweather connected on more. You could just see the tide turning. You could just see what Mayweather was doing. And it shouldn't be shocking. He's a boxer, and McGregor is a fighter. And that's what he tried to do. And so I think from about the 5th to 6th round on, I had lost then hope is the wrong word, that McGregor was going to get that one punch because he just didn't have the power after that point to really be able to land anything at that point. And Mayweather just started moving forward and was just boxing and was just connecting. I mean, how aggravating it's got to be every time you turn, you got a fist in your face. You're eating leather, and it just steamrolled. And then you could just see his legs were going on him and couldn't keep his arms up anymore. And you see how in shape you have to be to box and to keep your arms up and to keep moving for that long. It just absolutely took it out of McGregor.
No question about the statistic that you brought up to go all the way back to the beginning. I never thought was going to become a factor because I didn't think it would go that far. I thought Mayweather would just take him apart immediately, and he didn't. And so there were a couple of different reasons why that might have happened. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot, see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. And to use the now popular on Mike and Mike Occam's razor, the most obvious one is McGregor just did a better job than we thought.
He did. He absolutely did.
And Mayweather, I think, it is a sweet science. And I think he went in there with a game plan, which is I'm going to take some time to figure him out.
Yeah.
I thought he would go in there. I said on Friday, you weren't here. I said on Friday, Mayweather doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to be worried about, did we put on a show to entertain the fans?
Right.
This is his last fight anyway. He's getting his money. I believe it is his last fight.
I do, too. There's no way. There shouldn't be a rematch. I wouldn't even buy a rematch, and I don't think there will be a rematch.
And there's no one else for him to fight out there that there's hundreds of millions of dollars involved in. But and so maybe he couldn't put him away faster. And I thought he could. Going into what I thought, I listened to so many of the experts say he can basically do whatever he wants to him in the ring. And maybe the answer is he couldn't. It wasn't as easy as that. Maybe the other answer, though, is he actually just said, what's my best way to win the fight? Not to put on a show, not to make a statement, not to do anything else, but just to win. And the best way to win was to exhaust him, to figure him out, and then take him apart.
I agree. And I tell you what, I give McGregor a lot of credit in the beginning. there were going to be those that are say that was just Mayweather making it go longer than it should have and not knocking him out early. I think McGregor was bigger. McGregor had that reach, and McGregor kind of kept him away. It was kind of unorthodox, and it took Mayweather just – I think Mayweather just said, you know what? I'm going to be patient. The only way I lose this is when McGregor has his most energy, which is the first couple of rounds, right, when he can really land a hard punch. But after that, probably that fourth round – I didn't see it anymore. I mean, McGregor was still kind of going decently, and after the sixth, it was done. But I think McGregor then lost that ability for that. We were all looking for that one-punch knockout, which maybe could have happened in the first couple of rounds. I think Mayweather did exactly what he wanted to do. I'm just gonna figure him out. He's gonna die, and I'm just gonna outbox him.
We got a lot of people ask about it today. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Among our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, we'll have Brian Custer from Showtime. We'll have Brett Okamoto, who covers MMA. We'll have Al Bernstein from Showtime today, plus Al Michaels and Adrian Wojnarowski on what could wind up being a huge basketball story out there. Yeah. So we are jam-packed all morning long. You'll hear from Dana White on what he thinks Conor McGregor should do from here, and we'll explain why one of the richest teams ever is on the verge of getting much, much richer.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home. Safe home.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
All right, we are Mike and Mike. All your Twitter reaction all morning long comes through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, and we're curious to hear your thoughts on the fight and all the rest of that. We have a couple of them here. A lot of people seem to be upset, Mike, as I'm just sort of glancing through them. A lot of them seem to be upset with the stoppage, that they did not feel the fight needed to be stopped when it was.
Not me. Listen, as I said, I'm not a boxing expert, but I've watched a lot of boxing matches, and I understand the responsibility of the referee is if a fighter isn't returning punches and he's getting punched and you can see he's wobbly and you can see he's basically done, you step in for the safety. Because you know what? You don't want that one extra punch that's going to send somebody down and maybe cause some damage because a guy is defenseless.
Do you know what my sense of it was? The people who are upset with that may be more MMA fans than boxing fans.
Yeah.
Because in MMA, you're accustomed to seeing they're going to stop this fight because this guy is totally defenseless and looks like he's on the verge of being killed. In boxing, that wasn't the case. McGregor had not thrown a punch. I didn't put a stopwatch on it.
Right.
But he hadn't thrown a punch at what felt like 20 minutes real time. He was defenseless. He was done. Mayweather was just going to keep hitting him repeatedly at will. I believe it was the right decision to stop
agree
it
as
when
well.
they did.
And what Conor said afterward, I understand. Conor McGregor is one of the toughest guys out there, and I'll continue to say it. I think he showed well in this. I absolutely think he showed well in this. I was entertained. I thought he did way better in the fight than I thought he would. Now, part of that, I think, was Mayweather figuring him out, but I think McGregor made it tough, at least in the beginning, and I think Mayweather wanted to stay away from the potential of that one punch in the first couple of rounds before the wear and tear started showing on McGregor. But as McGregor said, just let me get knocked out. Let me get knocked to the ground, because if I can, he said, I was just trying to make it to the bell. He talked about in his MMA fights when he has been wobbly, but he's made it to the bell. He's come back in matches and done well. And, at least he would have had a chance here. But he said, at least let me get knocked down. I understand what he's saying, but I completely understand why the referee stepped in, and I have zero issue with it at all.
Me too. The referee acted like a boxing referee, which is what he needed to do. At the end of the day, this was a boxing match, and those rules needed to apply.
He had that referee Bird had some interesting time. How many times did McGregor bop Mayweather on the back of the head, which was illegal? And everybody, I heard one boxing guy say they should have taken a point from him. That's the only way you teach a boxer to not do it, is to take a point. I thought, A, he's not a boxer, and B, he could care less if you take a point from him because he knows he's not outpointing Mayweather in this, so what? And then all the times that he ended up like behind Mayweather, was Mayweather turning, was McGregor stepping around behind. I mean, it was just odd, some of the things you don't normally see in a boxing match, but I guess you would expect a little bit of that because one of them wasn't a boxer.
So what did we wind up seeing? That sound that you heard was the collective sigh of relief from Las Vegas of all the sportsbook out there. Sportsbook CG Technology said Mayweather's win produced a high six-figure profit for the house and helped them avoid what would have been a seven-figure loss if McGregor had won. They're massively exposed on the side of McGregor winning this fight, which I think in retrospect was about as unlikely as we thought it was. Mayweather wasn't going to let it happen. The over-under, by the way, once again, was set at 9.5 rounds. It ended in 10.
Yeah.
Somehow those guys out there, it's amazing. They know exactly what's going on. All right, how about Conor McGregor's future? Mike, you touched on it briefly. Here's Dana White. You'll hear the question on what he wants Conor to do from here.
If he chose to box again, given how well he did, would you endorse that and work with him on that?
I would rather he did not. You know, this isn't what he does. He's a mixed martial artist where he goes in and he fights and he uses all of his weapons, and tonight he was only allowed to use his hands. I think he did great tonight. I don't think there's anything else left to prove. I would rather he fight in mixed martial arts.
Listen, I agree 1,000%. Unless there's another fight that's going to get him $100 million to box, why would he do it again? I so agree. As I was listening to boxing people say, he just hasn't done it enough. He doesn't know the leverage, the angles to make his punches harder, land harder than they should, and the fact that he wore down as well. Now, I'm sure that's something you can improve upon, is your endurance, but why would he? Why would he choose to go in that sport and try and become even more efficient than that when he's already an MMA fighter and one of the best ones out there, especially when there's no payday like that? There was no reason for him to keep boxing.
Ding, 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 ding. To me, that's it. I think the most important part of this is if he's going to fight again, and it'll be interesting to see if he does it all.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
You and I spent a lot of time last week talking about what job is it that you have that if you won the Powerball, you would just, keep working. Well, he just won the Powerball.
Right.
I mean, we'll see exactly how much it winds up paying, but he's going to walk out of this thing from what we saw ahead of time with a minimum of $75 million and probably more. And he can take the payout, so after he pays everybody off and everything else, he's going to walk away from this thing, I would say, at absolute minimum with $25-30 million in his pocket.
Right.
And probably more than that. So he doesn't have to fight again at all if he doesn't want to. If he does want to, follow the money and see where it goes. I think there's more money for him out there right now in MMA than there is in who's he fighting in boxing now that you want to see.
Listen, there's no doubt. I think in MMA his biggest purse was $3 or $5 million, but with pay-per-view it was $11 to $15 million. If he can get fights now that could get him $20 million between pay-per-view and a purse, if he could up his amount, and do that a couple of times, it would probably be worth it to him. I don't know if that's in the cards. I don't know if he wants to be part owner of this with Dana White, if he wants to jump into more of that side of it. I don't know. But I do know that I don't believe he's going to step in that MMA ring again unless he knows he's getting way more than he has ever gotten stepping into that MMA ring again.
Yeah, I probably true. That part of it, I guess we don't know because
we don't.
He just also seems like the type who kind of likes it,
yeah,
and just wants to be in a fight all the time. Yeah. And if that's what he likes, then that's so be it.
Yeah, and get paid well for it.
But I would say, where does he go if he wants to fight? I feel like there's infinitely more money out there available to him fighting in MMA now than there is in boxing.
No way he's going to box.
If there was a fight out there in boxing. I guess that's
my point. There's no fight. What's the fight? There's no other fight that would do this. So why would he go? I don't think there's any way he steps into a boxing ring again. And I don't think there's any way there's going to be a rematch here of those that we're talking about a rematch. I think his boxing days are done.
As far as his continuation of his MMA career, now look, I just got a note here that said that over the last month, McGregor generated over $19 million for social brands. McGregor only $1.6 million. So McGregor's got a little bit of a star.
He does.
Factor about him.
Ride the wave now.
He could ride that. Here's the thing about that. Does he need to keep fighting to maintain that level of stardom? Or does he just kind of disappear? Does he become yesterday's news? Look at Ronda Rousey, who was the biggest star MMA ever produced. All of a sudden, she was going to do movies, and next thing you know, she's
lost
got
and done.
Tim Kirchin in an armbar on ESPN.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, she's losing fights. So the point is, can you be a celebrity and a fighter at the same time? But I think that McGregor will have to continue fighting in order to stay relevant.
I agree with that.
And if so, then he probably has to keep fighting again. Because I was about to say, well, could he go? He could probably go do a movie someplace, right? Someone will make him a hitman in a movie or something like that.
He probably could, but I do think his money is still in fighting, and I think he's put himself in position because he is a great marketer. The way he goes about it, it's just. Can you market something well enough in MMA, which is still more, in my opinion, more popular than boxing? So he's in the more popular sport right now. And if he could get that fight and still with that marketing ability he has to get that big purse that he can get, it's not going to be ever the purse he got in this. But you know what? 15, 20 mil a fight total between pay-per-view and the purse isn't all bad. You know, if you want to do that a few more times and make yourself a little more money while keeping yourself relevant and in the marketing part of it as well, it's certainly that will be the interesting part of me. Or does he have higher goals now with that sport?
Let's see what he decides to do. It'll be interesting. Dana White wants him back in MMA, and I would guess if he's going to fight again, that's where it will be.
Yep.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. If you don't mind, Greeny, I'd like to give a little Straight Talk here, and congratulations for a moment to the U.S. men's freestyle wrestling team. They had the World Championships over the weekend in Paris, and for the first time since 1995, the team won the championship, won the Worlds. So the U.S. team, they won the Worlds in Paris. So again, the first time they've done that since 1995. 2 gold medals, Jordan Burroughs and Kyle Snyder, who is just, again, taking the world by storm. He now has 2 world championships and Olympic gold under his belt. And, oh, by the way, he goes back and wrestles for Ohio State. He gets to go wrestle against college guys and go for his 3rd national championship. I don't see anybody getting in his way. But both he and Burroughs were behind in their gold medal matches and came back and won. Kyle Snyder wrestled a guy, Greeny. Listen, a lot of fans out there of sports aren't going to know the name, and I can't even pronounce it, but he's known as the Russian Tank. He's considered pound for pound the best wrestler in the world. He's actually 1 weight class below Kyle Snyder. He went up a weight class because he wanted to face Kyle Snyder.
And Snyder beat him.
And this guy had a 5-3 lead with, I think, about 40 seconds to go in the match, and Snyder ended up winning 6-5. It was an excellent match, and now Snyder, they said the winner of that bout would be considered the pound for pound the best wrestler in the world. There are those that know the sport way better than me, and I think I know it pretty well, that will know that if that is the true or not. But what a matchup that was. And Kyle Snyder and this guy was undefeated in international competition, which is exactly what Snyder is. Between Worlds and Olympics International, Snyder is now 13-0. But congrats to him and Burroughs. Both got the gold into that team for winning the World Championships. Again, first time since 1995.
Well done. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Greg Dennis tweets at us, McGregor should have been trained to finish Mayweather in 3 rounds. Poor plan of attack or lack thereof.
Well, we don't know if he wasn't. I mean, I don't know what his training was. I have no idea. I mean, but... So if you train for that and you don't do it, then what? I mean, you're throwing in the damn towel. I mean, I don't train for these. I don't fight in these. I have to believe their thought process was his best shot to win was going to be knock him out early. And listen, McGregor was throwing punches, and then you could just see when the punches started not being as powerful and when he started getting tired. So I have to believe that was part of their thought process.
I have to believe that was his strategy. He was throwing punches. Mayweather wasn't just going to say, okay, let's just go in there like Hagler and Hearns did once upon a time and start mixing it up. I believe that was his plan of attack. Luigi says, no matter what anyone says, that man went 10 rounds with arguably the greatest fighter to ever live. You have to respect that. I do. I do as well. I respect the fight he put in there.
I do as well. I thought he showed himself extremely well. I know there were a lot of people that were kind of bummed that he was kind of, happy's the wrong word, but didn't seem overly bummed about losing and even in the locker room after. And I thought, okay, I mean, he wasn't expected to win this thing. I'm sure he wanted to win. I'm sure he was trying to win. But at the end of the day, he's going against one of the best fighters ever to fight in that guy's sport. And, oh, by the way, made himself $100 million. I mean, I don't blame him. He went out and partied hard. Both of them
did you see his party?
Oh,
yeah.
my God, yeah. And I don't blame him one bit.
Mayweather doesn't really party. He has a strip joint that he owns, and he was there. McGregor had his own party that he promised he'd be at, win or lose, and he did.
Yes, he was there, and he partied. Good for him.
Big Frog tweets, there was no tape of Conor boxing, so it was on-the-job training for Mayweather, and you knew he would figure it out. That's what it was.
Yes, it was.
Mayweather wasn't going to go out there and do anything other than what he felt was in his best way of winning the fight. He goes in with a goal that's separate. Some of us as fans want to see, go out there, knock him out, kill him, knock his head off. That's not his intention. He's just trying to win the fight, and this was the way he chose to win the fight.
I completely agree. And so for the $100 I spent, I felt I got my money's worth. I felt entertained. I enjoyed it. So And I know a lot of people wondered how it was going to be, and you hear how some people tried to consume it, whether they were paying for it or watching it in different ways. But
a lot of people I know were watching it on Periscope.
Periscope, yeah.
I know a lot. I know Dick Vitale had trouble getting it at his house.
Yes, he did. Yes,
there were pay-per-view issues all over the place. But all things considered, I think it turned out better. This was one that setting it up, we all were just... Everyone was putting down their money for the fight going, this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It wasn't awful. So very rarely do that's why if I had to use one word to describe it, I would describe it as satisfying.
Me too. And I'm going to tell you, early on, when McGregor hit that uppercut, everybody seemed stunned. He connected on this uppercut, so you thought, oh, okay, we got the first couple of rounds here to see if he can do some damage.
All right. Brian Custer will join us off the top of the hour, much more on the fight. Meanwhile, the rich are about to get a whole lot richer. The Los Angeles Dodgers are on a pace to have one of the great records in the history of the sport, and now they're bringing back arguably the greatest pitcher in the history of the sport. Clayton Kershaw will come out of his Saturday rehab at AAA, or did come out of that and will start for the Dodgers either Friday or Saturday as he comes back from this lower back strain. So the Dodgers are as hot as a team basically has ever been, and now they'll get Clayton Kershaw back in their rotation.
They'll get him back. We got to wait and see how he goes. Remember Alex Wood, their other stud pitcher, he's on the DL. Bellinger's on the DL. or is he still on? Hemble, you can tell me. I know they went on the DL. They're still on the DL. So they got to heal up. I mean, this is a team that's going to be favored going in. Kershaw getting him back obviously is huge, and then he needs to perform well in the postseason as well, but it's certainly good to get him back.
Since Clayton Kershaw's last start on July 23rd, he goes down, right?
Right.
And you're thinking, here's the one thing that could derail the Dodgers, who are having a really good year. Since his last start, they're 23-7. 23-7 without him. He's still tied, by the way. Clayton Kershaw hasn't pitched since July 23rd. He's still tied for the Major League lead in wins. That's how good he is, and the Dodgers have been ridiculously good. His 2.04 ERA still leads the majors as well. As far as baseball, by the way, Hembo gave it to me. There have been 8 60 home run seasons in baseball history. Giancarlo Stanton has a really good shot at putting together the 9th. Again, he hit his 50th yesterday. Barry Bonds did it once.
Right.
Roger Maris did it once. Babe Ruth did it once. Sammy Sosa did it 3 times. Mm-hmm. Mark McGwire did it twice. Those are the 60 home run seasons in baseball history. How do you want to classify them? Do you want to put Bonds, the Sosa 3, and the McGwire 2 in a little different category than the other two?
Well, I think that's what everybody does.
Right.
And everybody has their way of doing it, of how they want to deal with it, just like there are many people that say 61 is a number, even though it's not. 73 is a number. So everybody has a different opinion about this, but I want to see him get into the 60s for sure.
Keith Olbermann actually had an interesting tweet on this yesterday that I'll read you a little bit later in the show, and you'll tell me if you agree or you disagree, because generally speaking, to give my 30-second version of it, I agree with you. The record is 73.
It is.
Unless they're going to take it out of the book or put an asterisk next to it, and neither of those things has happened and neither is going to, then we can say anything we want, but it's not going to be the record.
Right.
Keith made an interesting point about whether you could put an asterisk next to it or whether you could take it out of the book if you really wanted to. We'll get to those as we continue. But up next, Brian Custer from Showtime. His thoughts on what was a huge night Saturday night and what's next for Conor McGregor.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Oh, wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
There we are, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. That'll be busy this hour. Brian Custer from Showtime Boxing will join us in a couple of minutes. And then Woj will be here. Not so fast, my friends, on the Kyrie Irving trade. We kind of had this coming. I remember I said to you last week, what happens if the Cavaliers and their doctors look at Isaiah Thomas and that hip is way, way, way worse than they thought it was? Now all of a sudden it appears that's exactly what happened here. So could the trade be off? We'll find out from Woj in about a half hour.
Here comes an extra draft pick coming the way of the Cavaliers to try and get more compensation. We'll see.
Is that enough for you, though? I mean, if you're Cleveland.
I don't know about the hip. I mean, if you're telling me Isaiah Thomas isn't going to be able to play till halfway through the season, that's what Woj will tell us. There's a lot that has to do with when you think he's going to be able to play. One quick plea for me. I did not see Game of Thrones season finale last night. So no spoilers. Let me just make sure Herman's not on the show today, right?
No Herman today.
Herman Edwards is not on the show. Okay. So
he's been banned on any morning after a Game of Thrones
episode. And this
episode.
is a big one. Listen, it's on me. I tried to stay up for it. I stayed up late the night before watching the fight. I tried to stay up. I was watching the Minnesota-San Francisco game, and I was going to go right into Game of Thrones. I just got too tired, so I thought.
So you know nothing?
I know nothing. I'm going to bag it. Ray, you and I were in makeup. Ray came in and almost started, then asked me. He assumed I saw it, and I didn't. And it would be my own fault. For a season finale, I don't know if you get that 24 hours. I think it's really incumbent upon me to stay away from any kind of Twitter to know what happened until I get home and watch it, because it's the season finale. That's a big one.
You know what I noticed? It almost felt Greeny-esque the way you were talking to Ray, because you started by saying, I didn't see it, so don't say anything.
Right.
Just tell me one thing.
Yeah, I started asking questions, yeah.
Okay, I don't want to know anything else. Just tell me, did this happen?
Yeah.
And I don't know the people and the characters in the show, so
yeah.
I couldn't define all the questions you were asking. But you asked, did this one and that one get together? This one and that one fight?
A couple of questions I asked. Ray's silence was deafening.
But
so
you got no one to blame.
I know.
You
could
right. not resist
You're right.
asking the questions.
You're right.
So I thought he did a pretty good job, all things considered, if not responding.
Well, no, he did a nice job. If it were Herm, he'd have told me what happened the entire time.
Well, Herm, I saw it. He just blurted it out.
Oh.
And it turns out it was extraordinary. Like Rosebud was the sled. Okay, I'm not telling you anything that important, and then you sort of get on with your.
What did you say?
Trust me. It's the movie Citizen Kane. Spoiler alert: the movie was made 75 years ago, so I think that I'm okay on the spoiler rule on that. I'm not sure when exactly what the statute of limitations is on Orson Welles movies.
Right.
But considering he's been dead 50 years, I think we're probably safe on that. So either way, the point is he let go a big one. You were asking all kinds of questions. I don't watch the show, so I'm okay.
Yeah, I need to just stay away.
It is the number 2 trending topic on Twitter still.
Listen, there's no doubt about it. And I heard it was fantastic. I heard they got a lot in. It was, again, I think a little under an hour and a half. One more season, and that's it. I think there's only 6. There was only 7 episodes this year. I think there's only 6 next year, I believe, to end this thing. So, and the ratings obviously are just going to be monstrous on this thing. So I'm looking forward to getting home and seeing it. The wife is down and out. She finished that walk. She feels great physically after the 320 miles, but she got a horrible cold that she is trying to get over. She's so bummed. She's like, my legs and feet feel great. It was a great experience, but she's got a bad cold, so we're just going to set her down, drug her up, let her go to sleep, and then I'll watch Game of Thrones.
Does she watch Game of Thrones?
No, she does not.
Okay, so she won't care that you watch that without her. But congratulations to Chris, who walked,
320 miles it turned out being 320.
And I thought that your courage in walking those 3 with her on that last day was really remarkable. We were all very proud of you.
It was without question the 3 hardest miles. It was all uphill, and they kind of figured it out through their algorithms that 3 miles came out to about 180 miles of what they walked. So that's kind of what it equated to.
All right, yeah.
So I am the man.
All right, yeah. I thought you did just great there. You really brought a lot of pride. All of us on the show were very proud of you.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
But she raised a whole bunch of money, too, for a homeless charity
25K,
in
actually
South Bend.
26,000 or something. So it was a great job. We appreciate everybody who donated to that.
Well done. Okay, Mike and Mike, Brian's ready to go. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Customers who switch to Progressive save an average of $500. Call or click today and find out if they could save you hundreds on your car insurance. And I will tell you right now, joining us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line is the happiest man in the world because he was in Vegas doing the fight on Saturday night for Showtime.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to watch Christian Hackenberg and the Jets in their preseason game on Saturday night. Here's Brian Custer with us on Mike and Mike. How are you, Brian?
Man, I'm great, Mike and Mike. How you guys doing? You know, an ode to you, Greeny.
Yeah.
I will say this, that on our way to the arena, we walked out and we had a security guy who was walking us into the arena. This guy comes running up to us, and the security guy stopped him. He said, no, I just want to speak to Brian really quick. He said, Brian, who has more wins today? Conor McGregor in rounds or the Jets in wins this season? And it stumped me. I was like, wow, I had to think about that one. I had to think about that one.
Whoever that guy was, he has a better idea of blitz pickup than Christian Hackenberg does at this point. But that's neither here nor there. All right, let's get to your real job here, and that is we were trying to – I used one word to describe the entire event Saturday night, and it's the last word I was expecting to use. And the word was satisfying. I was very satisfied with what we got. And that's so, unfortunately, with boxing, that seems to be the exception rather than the rule. What was the overwhelming reaction that you heard from people in the 36 hours since the fight?
I think you can use that word. A number of the McGregor fans were satisfied with the way that he performed. I think the Mayweather fans were more surprised that this fight went that long. And I think you guys may have been on vacation, but the last time I was on your show, your guys asked me, and they said, how do you think this fight is going to play out? And I said, I really think Floyd will stop him. And they made up the point. They said, look, he hasn't stopped anybody in 7 years. And I said, but yeah, it's the accumulation of punches that's going to hurt McGregor. And furthermore, this fight cannot go past 25 minutes. That's the longest Conor McGregor has ever fought in the octagon, and it was against Nate Diaz, and it was that fight that he won. But if you remember that fight, guys, he nearly gassed out. I mean, he hurt him in the first round, he hurt him in the second round, and then Nate Diaz just came on in that third, in that fourth, and in that fifth. Conor McGregor was holding on for dear life, and that is exactly what you saw in this fight. He was great in the first 3 rounds. Me personally, I know a couple of judges gave Mayweather, I think the third round. I gave Conor the first 3. I thought he was great, but then you could see towards the very end of the third round, especially into the fourth, he started to tire. And I think that mental pressure from Floyd Mayweather just continuing to come forward at him got to him, and it was the accumulation of punches and the fatigue that ended up stopping this fight.
Last 10 boxing and MMA fights for both of them, Mayweather average fight time was 33 minutes, McGregor 8 minutes and 38 seconds. So, yeah, everybody felt that conditioning was going to play a part of this. Do you feel the referee did the right thing by stopping the fight? We're getting a lot of people saying the ref should have let it go further.
Yeah, listen, I hear what those people say. And listen, Robert Byrd's he's a great official. He's a great referee. And you know what it was? He was protecting Conor McGregor. I don't think he didn't want to see him getting hurt. And if you remember, he was getting hit flush with some big punches, and his head was getting snapped back. And I think the last thing he wanted to see was Floyd connect on another combination and send this guy to the ground or send this guy through the ropes. It was all about protection. And that's just one of the things I think an emphasis in boxing now is try to protect the fighters.
Yeah, I agree with that thought completely. I think the people who are complaining about the stoppage are probably more MMA fans who are used to there's a difference in when you're defenseless in boxing versus defenseless. When you're defenseless in MMA, it's basically because you're unconscious.
Yeah.
And when you're defenseless in boxing, you are exactly where McGregor was. There's no question that he made the right decision in ending it. Here's where we need your help, Brian.
Here's the key when it comes to boxing.
Yeah.
If you are stopping a guy and the ref steps in boxing, a guy will immediately argue with the ref. You will see him say, no, don't stop that. I was ready. If you remember in that fight, and I'm sure you guys have the footage, as soon as Robert Byrd jumped in and stopped it, listen, Conor McGregor's arms was down. He didn't shake his head. No, he was done. So there was even no argument at all that came from Conor McGregor. The only time he did that was after the fight was over and he had time to be interviewed by our Jim Gray. That's when he tried to, say, okay, I got my fans here. Let me just go ahead and make it look good and say, hey, let me go out on my shield. Well, he certainly didn't say that after Robert Byrd stepped in and said, this thing is over. I mean, Conor McGregor just sat there and said, had that look on like, look, I'm done. Thank you.
Mike and Mike, Brian Custer is with us, Showtime Boxing. So as we try to figure out what McGregor's next step could be, well, let me actually ask you the first one. Do you believe Mayweather is done? He said afterwards, there's no question it's his final fight. Both Mike and I believe him this time. Do you? Do you believe we've seen the last of Floyd Mayweather?
Yeah, I think so, because I think Floyd realizes this was probably the only guy that can get him that 9-figure payday that he was looking for. There's no one else in boxing that can do that. There's some fantastic fighters still out there. Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. There's some great fighters still out there. But listen, if Floyd fought them, maybe $20 million, he's not coming back for that. And it's a shame that we say that because that's a lot of money. But he's only coming back for 9-figure paydays. He's done.
All right, and so that we agree with that. And so then on the other side, you get then to McGregor. And Dana White said he would like to see McGregor's next fight and all the rest of his fights, however many there may be, back in MMA. Is there a fight for McGregor, if you wanted to, is there a fight for McGregor in boxing that would be a huge payday? Nothing will rival this, but is there a huge money fight for McGregor that exists in boxing right now?
I don't think so. I think if Conor is going to fight again, it's going to be back in the octagon. And you're right, Dana White said his plan is to get him back in the octagon by December. And if you're Conor McGregor, obviously this is just even enhanced your stock there. I think, his next fight in MMA, he could probably make $5 million, because obviously all those fights are pay-per-view. If he fights somebody in boxing, who could it be? I mean, there's really no one unlike Floyd Mayweather that's going to draw you that kind of big money. And I'll be honest, if he fought anyone that is active now, it would not go past 4 rounds, to be honest with you. So if I'm Conor McGregor, I'm going back to the octagon.
Completely agree. That's, if he actually got in there with someone who had some knockout power, you're right, it would be done. Well, on that note, I mean, one thing this fight did do, they went about 17 days before the Alvarez Triple G fight, September 16th, and you wondered, is that going to have any effect? Do you think that's coming up September 16th, boxing the world looking forward to that match? Will this pay-per-view have any effect on the buys for that one?
Here's the great thing about it. I think because this fight was, as Greeny pointed out, so satisfying, I think boxing fans were already going to buy that fight anyway. Obviously, this fight endeared itself to the casual fan. So I think, even though I know that the promoters of Triple G and Canelo were upset that they did this fight basically a couple weeks before theirs, because they were nervous that this would turn into another Mayweather-Pacquiao from an action standpoint and would hurt the sport. I think it enhanced the sport. So now I think you will probably get more people inclined to buy that fight when it comes up now on September 16th.
I actually agree with that. I think that you might get some of the MMA fans who were watching that fight for McGregor, right, Brian, who might not have otherwise been that interested in boxing, who said, you know what, this was actually fun to watch. If I've got the money, I'll plunk it down in a couple of weeks. And so that this might actually wind up bringing people into the tent in the way the last huge fight of this sort that we're thinking of, which is Pacquiao and Mayweather, they sent people away.
because you know with Triple G and you know with Canelo, you got two guys who are going to do nothing but come forward and slug it out. And if you love action, and UFC fans love that, MMA fans love that, let me tell you something. I'd be hard-pressed to see that Canelo-Triple G fight going anywhere past 5 or 6 rounds, because those two are going to just stand right in front of each other and say, okay, let's go. Let's see who's the strongest. Let's say who's the best puncher, and just slug it out. That's action. I think that's exactly what you're going to get when you watch that fight.
Looking forward to that. Brian, well done. Thanks so much for the time here. Well done over the weekend, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Brian
Thanks,
Custer
Brian.
with us. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, and Brian was on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make sure you make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Let me ask you a question. Which will there be more? I don't know exactly how you quantify this, not just in the paydays for the fighters themselves, but in whatever way we do this, the Alvarez Triple G fight, or McGregor's next fight in MMA, whatever that winds up being, which will be the bigger event?
Wow. See, I don't – I'm trying to remember numbers from the big MMA pay-per-views and what they would get.
And again, that's only one way of measuring it. I clearly, it's the most important way for them.
I think I'd go boxing.
That will be bigger than McGregor's next MMA fight.
Yeah.
See, I think that there will be more mainstream coverage, and by that I mean coverage outside of – even in traditional sports media. Like, I think that shows like ours, we're about as mainstream media as it gets in the sports world. I think shows like ours will cover the build up to the next McGregor fight more. If this fight hadn't happened,
did you say the next McGregor or the next MMA pay per view?
No, McGregor. The next McGregor fight in MMA. I think because it's McGregor, there will be more mainstream coverage.
That's a good question.
Of whenever McGregor, assuming he does, and he does relatively soon. I mean, you got to sort of strike while the iron is hot. I don't know how long they go between these fights in MMA, but however long, as long as he does it in the next, basically the next few months, I think that there will be more attention given in the buildup to McGregor's next fight than there will be to this fight, even though the boxing fan, the true boxing aficionado will tell you this is as good a fight as can be made in the world.
I don't know. I think this fight, and I agree based off what we saw Saturday, I think this fight's going to do pretty well. I do.
This fight, the Alvarez Triple G fight.
I'm absolutely getting it. I know that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. But we sometimes assign everything in this to star power. So, I mean, Alvarez and Triple G, the people who know the sport will tell you they're the best fighters, but neither one of them is a quote-unquote star.
Not a name
neither
like
one
McGregor
of them could walk down Broadway and everybody knows who they are. Conor McGregor, everybody knows
exactly right.
who he is. That's as hot as you can possibly be right now. Now, whether that lasts or not, I can't tell you. But I think the time to cash in on it is as quickly as he can.
This is a great note. Each of the 5 largest pay-per-views are boxing. Now, I'd like to see it. The fifth place number. McGregor Diaz, the second fight, ranked 6th with 1.6 million buys. So what are the top 5? What were the buys in those? What's the disparity in number of those?
And I'm assuming this does not include the one that we just had 2 days ago. It does include that or not? It does not.
No.
So it's about
that'll be
move everything one down.
Exactly. Yeah.
move everything one place down on that list.
But I do wonder. So what was 5th place before Saturday? What was 5th before you got to 1.6 million, 1.65 million buys with MMA? How different is it? I don't know.
I think that, and again, I don't know that you could just count this in the number of buys. But if there are other metrics by which this stuff is measured, social media interest, amount of promotion, amount of mainstream
discussion. This is by buys,
discussion,
man. It's by what's going in your pocket.
But that's only for a very small number of people, right? So then as far as for the rest of the sport, the impact that it has on the rest of the sport, I think McGregor's next fight will be bigger than the Alvarez Triple G fight.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree.
Overall,
I don't know if I agree.
Impact.
I don't know if I agree. Quite honestly, these two boxers. I don't know who the next guy.
Can he fight Diaz again?
Because now remember, Diaz, they're different weight classes. Okay,
they fought
they were
twice
doing
before.
Right,
I
they
have
did.
to believe we can do it again.
You knew the rematch was coming. I don't know. I mean that's the one thing about it is MMA. was more popular than boxing, and you didn't really know all the names, like the casual fan. The MMA people knew the names, but like I wasn't that versed in the names, but I was so into MMA. Well, now you really have a name. You really have that name in Conor McGregor to follow. It will be interesting, his next fight, and because you're going to want to follow this up with a big one. And to try and keep riding.
He has no reason now to do a small one.
No.
There's nothing left in this for him except.
And I don't know who. I don't know. We have Brett Okamoto coming on a little later. We can ask him what's that fight. I'm sure he'll be able to tell us what's that fight that will continue this.
So we will get back to that as we continue. Much more on the fight. Okamoto later, Al Bernstein later, Al Michaels later. But up next, Woj in the building with the answer to the question: is it possible that the Kyrie Irving trade could get called off entirely?
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, we help keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home. Safe home.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
All right, we may have found ourselves a casual fan. Let's see. Adrian Wojnarowski has made his way into our studio, and he is the premier basketball analyst in the world, and we're delighted to have him here. We got to get into the details of the Kyrie Irving disaster now with Isaiah Thomas and everything else. But here's the first question I have for you, because you strike me as one of these guys. I know Shefty well enough to know that it feels like his entire life is just spent like in hermetically sealed with his phone up to his ear getting information. Did you watch the fight Saturday night?
I did watch it.
You did? Okay, yeah. So you were interested enough to do that. Good. So my question to you then is this.
Well, my family was interested enough to do it. I was going to watch Sleepers. On the movie.
Yeah.
I was done, but we ended up ordering the fight.
So. You got outvoted.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we all know that.
Yeah. You know how that ends.
Okay, so maybe that doesn't beget my next question as well as I wanted, but you were going to be our first person in the focus group. We're trying to figure out which will have more interest going forward. There's a huge boxing match coming up in just 3 weeks' time, right? Alvarez and Triple G, which people who know the sport know is the biggest fight that could be made in the world right now. And Conor McGregor is most likely going to take his talents back to MMA, and he has, I think, more star power than the other two guys I just named combined. Which would you be more inclined to watch next? That fight coming up in 3 weeks in boxing, or whatever it is McGregor does next in MMA?
I would be inclined to watch neither, but I don't know the two boxers. I don't know the two boxers. I do know who McGregor is. My son's. I've been hearing about McGregor for a couple years, so I would say McGregor, but I'll probably try to watch Sleepers again on that night if it's on.
But so there's the point, though, right? He knows McGregor. That's the thing.
Yeah,
right there. That's your ticket in the door.
You can watch both. That's the thing.
Okay.
I
so
mean,
obviously,
at the end of the day, you can watch McGregor and Mayweather. You can watch Canelo and Triple G, and you can watch McGregor and whoever he's going to fight.
But they're only concerned about the people who will only watch one or the other. I mean, obviously, the people who are going to watch both, then they're all happy with.
Right.
My question is, which is the bigger event coming out of this?
Oh, McGregor's the bigger name, without question.
He's the bigger name.
Without question.
Does that translate to a bigger event? It's a good question.
I'll end up being on my phone anyway, whenever.
Yeah, or watching Sleepers. It seems.
It's well, it's going to be September 16th. So clearly, there's. Well, I guess unless Carmelo gets traded, there shouldn't be anything going on.
Talking about this potential trade.
Okay, so what in the world is going on here? For folks who sort of missed your reporting over the weekend on this, where do we stand as of right now with the Kyrie Irving, Isaiah Thomas trade?
Cleveland looked at the physical of Isaiah Thomas on Friday. He came into town on Friday, took his physical, and there's a discrepancy between what Boston felt the readiness of Isaiah would be this season. They knew that he would not be ready to start the season. Cleveland has questions about when he will be ready, at what point. they fear it could be longer into the season. And this is a player with only a year left on his deal. His deal matches up with LeBron's. So they're going back to Boston. They're going to go back to Boston here, maybe today, and say we would like something additional to complete the trade. And then Boston's going to react to that request. And, there's a standoff here coming.
Odds that this deal doesn't happen?
Both teams have a lot to lose to walk away from this. They both do. And Cleveland ultimately really we talked about this last week. Cleveland values that draft pick. They value that draft pick in a post-LeBron potential scenario there. They can't get a pick that high from anybody else. They really can't. And they have found in their first round going through this, they can't get a young player who might end up having greater value than that really high pick. So I still would be surprised if these teams let this thing die, but it's not done. It's not complete. And there's going to be some gamesmanship, some posturing that's going to continue to go on here before it gets done, or potentially, like you said, before it could completely unravel and the Celtic players would go back to Boston, Kyrie would have to go back to Cleveland, or Cleveland would start working right away on finding another deal.
Is there a discrepancy in what the Boston doctors are saying and the Cleveland doctors are saying? Is that where the trouble is?
Well, I think, people are going to evaluate medical information differently. Different organizations, doctors are going to look and evaluate. They felt in Boston, Isaiah played with some discomfort last year, had the best year of his career, and it's Boston feels like they were completely transparent with Cleveland about where he was physically, and they feel that they worked into the deal some value that accounted for the fact that Isaiah probably wouldn't be ready to start the season. Of course, Cleveland looks and says, no, we want more. We need more in this deal.
So how much do we know, if anything, about what it is Cleveland thinks they're going to get out of Isaiah Thomas this year? Are we talking about something where he's not ready by December, or are we talking about something where he may not be ready at all?
Unclear. I think there's a feeling he's going to. I haven't talked to anybody who doesn't think he's going to be completely miss the season. It's a question of when. And that's always hard to tell. My reporting is that he has not begun running in his rehabilitation. What Boston prescribed for him was rest and rehab, and that's what he's done this summer. But as of last week, he had not started running, and we are, a month, 5 weeks from training camp. I mean, you can do the math on it. It's going to take time, and he's a player certainly built on his quickness, his explosion. But I know that around Isaiah and Boston, they felt his long-term, he's going to be a free agent next summer, and this is really unfair to him in a lot of ways because it's certainly impacting his value on the market. But I really think these concerns are short-term concerns in Cleveland because he's only got a year left on his deal, and they do want to, the best they can, have as much as they can around LeBron here to try to find some way to get him to stay.
So in any kind of standoff, whether it's here, it's team, and whether it's player, team, money-wise, we always look for who swings the bigger leverage hammer. Who has the bigger leverage hammer right here, the Cavaliers or the Celtics?
It's interesting. Boston, if Isaiah goes back and Boston wants, they do not have another opportunity to get a player of Kyrie's stature in a deal or free agency. But Boston still has those draft picks, and they have some good young players. And they could still package some of them, any of them, to do a deal for another point guard at some point if they decide not to go forward with Isaiah. Cleveland, they didn't get the offers that they really wanted with other teams in the Kyrie talks. Now imagine a scenario where Boston's out of the conversation. They don't have Boston to leverage in trade talks anywhere else. Why would anybody out there offer more than they did before when they know that Boston isn't involved in this? That's why I think they both have a lot to lose, and you still believe that they will find a way here to get this thing done.
Mike and Woj, from the outside looking in, it feels to me like Cleveland has much more to lose than Boston does, at least in the short term. They would have to manage the egos of, if worst came to worst and the thing blew up, which, again, Woj is not telling you who he thinks is going to happen. But if that did, they'd have to manage the egos of Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and all that. But that's easier to do than whatever seems to be going on with Kyrie and everything else. And to be clear, what Cleveland is asking for is minor additional compensation. I mean, I assume we're not talking about another first-round pick here.
It's a negotiation, so they're going to ask for a lot.
Yeah.
And then Boston's going to say, no way. And then there'll be a negotiation. If at all Boston's willing to negotiate, Danny Ainge could say, guys, we're not doing anything. But, they have until Thursday to get this done before the physicals have to be either accepted or rejected. It's a negotiation, and that's where it plays into, like we said, who has leverage here, who's willing to live with the consequences of walking away from this thing.
All right, not to put you on the spot, but these are your choices.
You're going to put me on the spot.
I am. Nothing happens. It's money. It's a player. It's a draft pick.
It won't be money. That's not good. It won't be money.
I just threw that in there.
I would say I think it ends up being either nothing or some sort of a draft pick. I don't believe Cleveland's going to extract Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. That's not going to happen in this. I would be shocked if that happened. But Boston does have a lot of picks. Could it be one of the late first-round picks? Could it be 2 second-round picks, 1 second? That's more likely, far more likely than a player of significant, really good young Boston player. I don't see Boston doing that.
He is Adrian Wojnarowski, and he's always there with the information. Again, this was in the middle of what was an otherwise huge sports weekend, but cannot be ignored because the biggest trade in the NBA that we've seen in a long time might be in some jeopardy of getting called off. Woj, thanks as always. Terrific work.
Hope you get your episode of Sleepers.
Yeah, someone get this man a copy of Sleeper.
Yeah.
Stat.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Mike and Mike, reminding you, if you want to get in touch with us, tweet us at Mike and Mike through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes a summer birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you're going to get another dozen free. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
So here's a number. Brock Lesnar, I'm being told, made $12 million last year in WWE. This in response to Kevin's tweet to us that McGregor will wind up in WWE and get paid Lesnar money to do so. That was for one fight. Lesnar got paid $12 million for one
for a whole
fight
year.
For
Well, then it's not worth it.
That's my point.
He'll make more. He'll make more. In
what did
MMA.
Cena make? $8 million. Is that for a year? Or is that that's for a year?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
McGregor's going to make that for 10 minutes.
In the Diaz fight, which is 6 all-time pay-per-view, I think with pay-per-view and purse, I think he made 11 to 15 mil in that area there. So, and he'll make more than that. Whatever the next fight is for him, and they really obviously want to capitalize on that right now and have another big fight, whether it's GSP or who it's going to be that McGregor would fight. I absolutely believe they need to capitalize on that right now. So, but who is it going to be? Diaz? I mean, someone around his weight, or is it going to be up like GSP is what, 170? Did we say in that area there, 170? So I don't know, but this is the time. This is the time to capitalize on it.
I agree,
for sure.
and he's in the right sport to do it. And I'll give Dana White credit for a number of things, including this. He makes the fights you want. And that's one of the reasons that MMA has come so far so fast, is that boxing takes forever. Pacquiao and Mayweather didn't fight each other till they were both basically done. That fight was a shell of what it should have been, because those guys should have fought each other when they were both at least close to their respective primes. What MMA does so well is they get you the fights you want.
Yeah.
They get them together and they make them happen. They make them fast. So that's what they'll do. They will go. Dana White is probably with Conor McGregor right now.
Yeah, and you know what I said, GSP against George St. Pierre, he's got to fight Conor, but he's going to fight that 185. I thought he was 170. So is he bigger than that? I mean, that's a thing. Who is he going to fight? I mean, McGregor would just get destroyed by these guys. Now, he used to fight at 170, so I don't know where that, but boy, you know what Dana White can mix and match stuff to make it work, to make it a big fight. So it's just a matter, I guess, what the payday is going to be and who you can match up to make it that biggest fight.
And Southpaw Adam tweets at us, McGregor will stay in boxing. Mayweather will become his promoter and trainer a la Rocky III. So we'll see where that winds up going. Brett Okamoto will join us in a couple of minutes. Okay, we're going to teach Golic a new word. It's funny, we've been together so long that the first thing I see when I read this tweet yesterday is Golic is going to ask me what this word means. And so let me read you the succession of tweets. Matt Snyder for CBS, who writes for CBS Sports covering baseball, wrote a story saying, this is the headline of it. I didn't read the whole story, but the headline tells you everything you need to know. The story says, stop saying the real home run record belongs to anyone except Barry Bonds. And so I didn't read the whole story, but you can tell from the headline the point that he's making, that as so many do, including, I think, candidly, both of us, that the guy is the home run record. They're not taking it away from him. And so we can stop with the is Giancarlo Stanton chasing the true home run record when he chases after Roger Maris. Keith Olbermann quote tweeted that and wrote, "Nope, pure sophistry. College sports vacate championships for cheating all the time. A statistic is more easily invalidated. These are." So before anything else, before I started considering whether I agree with Keith or not, and I think he's making an interesting point and I want to talk about it, the first thought I had was, if I read that to you, Golic is going to stop me on the word sophistry.
Oh, I thought you meant on the word pure. I know what sophistry means.
They put it up on the screen, I noticed. Would you have known the word sophistry otherwise? Because I will admit, that is a word that I've heard, and I'm aware basically of what it means, but I don't know that I've ever seen it used.
Here's how much I would not have known. Not only would I not have known what it means, but how bad it gets is when the definition uses a word I don't know. The definition of
the word fallacious.
The definition of sophistry is the use of fallacious arguments. I would have had to stop and think about that.
And now that you know what it means.
Say it carefully, yeah.
So sophistry, what it basically means is saying something
that's wrong.
I've always thought, here's what I thought it meant. I thought it meant saying something that you know to be untrue and trying to make it sound true. That's what I thought the word meant. Now that I see the definition of it, with the intention of deceiving. Okay, so that is right. I always thought sophistry was I'm saying something to you and trying to make you believe it even though I know it's not true. Whatever. The point is,
why couldn't you say that's just wrong?
Because that's Keith.
Why do you have to? Why all these
Keith
big
is going to use the word sophistry.
Why are all you journalists out there using big words?
That's not even. That's
whatever it is.
That's going to use. That's using the word sophistry where phony might have sufficed. But one way or another, he's making the point. College sports vacate championships for cheating.
Listen,
all the time.
Oh, and look, what do they do with Olympic medals? They take them away from you.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this 8th place person got the gold medal because the 7 in front of him doped.
And look, I mean, your son, Mike Golic Jr., who's in here with us all the time, his team made it to a college football national championship
undefeated.
Game. And when he takes his grandchildren back to Notre Dame, or when he drops his kids off there for their first day of their freshman year, there is nowhere that he can take them on that campus to show them, look, this plaque represents the team I was on that had an unbeaten season. Why? Because there was an academic issue involving that team. It wasn't even quote unquote cheating.
Right.
And so they invalidated the whole thing. It's like it never happened.
Wins were vacated.
So they can do that.
Yes.
They can do that. So, and now they're putting up the definition of the word
vacate. Okay?
To a place that one previously occupied. So Keith is basically saying, college sports do this all the time. Why couldn't you? Just take it out.
Where's your
take
line
it out of the
then?
book, pretend it didn't happen.
Where's your line?
Give me a line.
What's your line of where are you taking records out? Is it just the top record? What if somebody who is in 4th place, you taking them out? And I'll say again, Keith, what about when guys use amphetamines? Those are illegal. Does that count anywhere? Where I would ask Keith, where's your line? Where's your line of saying this is vacated? Whether you're 1st on the list, 3rd on the list, 8th on the list, are you vacating all those? And where does your line stop of what you're using to vacate? That's what I would ask.
Yes, there probably will not be a vacating in this.
No.
Would that tense of that word be a vacation? Probably not. Is it a vacation? Will there be a vacation of this record? And if so, where will it be spent? You know what I'm saying? The point is, you could vacate or you could just put an asterisk. You could put some sort of notation of it, I believe is what he's suggesting you could do if you wanted to do it.
Yes, you could do that.
I don't believe they will because I don't believe they want to.
I don't believe so either.
But he's suggesting they could. Brett Okamoto on the future of Conor McGregor next. Don't miss it.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home, safe home.